My name's Alan Hart and I keep getting asked if I can do a video on safe isolation on a boiler. So in today's video I'm going to show you what I do. So this is sort of gas training, but what I would say is make sure you go on your own safety course, and disclaimer for me, just so that you can't come back and sue me for it. But I'm going to do safe isolation on a boiler. Yeah, let's have a look. Electrical safe isolation. So if we're going to work on any gas appliance, any boiler, we need to make sure that we're safe, and it's very, very important. I did a job a few days ago and I showed the video, which I'll add below here, but you could have got electric shock on that video. So it's very, very important that we do safe isolation if we're going to work on a boiler. First of all, what we need to do, we need to locate the fuse spur. So we've located what we believe could be the fuse spur. So what we're going to do now, we'll turn this off and we'll see if the boiler display goes off. So now we need to ask ourselves, is it safe to touch? And the answer to that question is no. So what we've got a flute pen. We'll test the case, but we need to test the pen's working first. So what we'll do now, we'll test it with a known source, and then after we've tested it, then we'll test the case, and then we'll test it again. So it's prove, use, prove, and that's PUP. So if you remember PUP, so we're prove that it works, use it, and then prove it again. Prove, use, prove. It's important that we test the equipment that we're using first to make sure that it's working. So prove, use, prove. So prove, and then I'm going to test the case, and then I'm going to test anything else that's metallic as well, all that we're going to touch that's metal, just to make sure that we're safe, and then prove. And then we're going to remove the fuse and inspect the fuse, and then after that we'll also take the case off. So now I'm going to remove the fuse and check the fuse, and that's a 3 amp fuse in this one. So I've got the fuse in my pocket, put the fuse in my pocket, safely in my pocket. I'm going to remove the front cover, pull the front flap down, and we're going to uncover the electrics, and we can test the electrics on that then. I'm going to use a socket and see to prove safe isolation. First of all, we need to prove, make sure the tester is working, and then we're going to use, and then we'll come back, and then we'll prove again. So I'm now doing a dead test to make sure that the boiler, there's no power to this boiler. So I'm going to put this probe here onto the neutral, and then I'm going to put the other probe across all the terminals in the boiler. And as I'm doing that, what I'm doing is I'm making sure that none of this lights up here, and then I'm going to move this onto the earth, and again I'm going to go across all the connections, and we're going to make sure that none of these lights come on, and then we need to go back and prove again it's still working. So as I say now, we've proved again. So we've proved, we've used, and we've proved. Very important. So what we're trying to establish with what we're doing is that the boiler is safe to work on. and there's no power going to the boiler. So as we say, safe isolation. What we've done with the multimeter, we've connected the blue, we've connected that onto the neutral into the boiler, and then we've used the brown one and we've gone across all the connections on the boiler, the permanent live, so the live from the fuse spur in, and then also any switched lives or any other terminals in there as well. And then what we've done, we've put the blue onto the earth, and then we've tested them all again, made sure we've checked the live, the switched live, and any other wires in there, just to make sure that nobody's wired in another external source. So sometimes, and I've had this myself in the past, where somebody's wired an external control and that might have its own power supply, and that could come in on the switched live. So you could do your test here, and if you didn't check that wire, then it could still have power coming in, and obviously that would be unsafe. So you need to make sure that the boiler is safe to work on and you've done all your tests. I said multimeter then, it's actually an earth loop impedance tester, so it's not a multimeter. So now we need to make sure that the fuse spur couldn't be turned back on. It's okay where we are here now because the spur's at the side of us and we're here, so nobody can disturb it. But if that fuse spur were like in a cupboard outside, or it were downstairs or somewhere else, then we'd have to make sure that somebody else couldn't come in and put a fuse in and then turn power back on, because obviously we'd be working in this boiler and it'd be unsafe. So then you can get all sorts of signs, and you can get cable ties, you can also get like little padlocks as well that, to do that, and you can lock the spur off just to make sure that you're safe. So we've just got a sign on this, and you can put your cable tie in and connect that up, or you can get a padlock, or whatever you need to do to make it so somebody else coming in isn't able to turn this power back on. Maybe they could put a fuse in and turn it back on, because obviously then the boiler would then be unsafe again. This video is just to give you a bit of an idea, and I would strongly advise anybody who's going to work on gas appliances or anything to do with electrics to go on the appropriate training course, and it's very, very important. People die, people lose their fingers and all sorts by putting the hands and stuff in boilers when they think that they're safe, they've turned a spur off or something like that. So as I say, I can't stress enough how important it is to always make sure that if you're going to work on a boiler that you're safe. I've just got a few products here, or tools. That's the socket and C. We used to use that in old British gas days. You can plug that in as well. You can also test your earth and stuff with that as well. Also multimeters as well. That's not, they don't really like you to use these days. You can use them, but you need to use it in for the appropriate application. So just check when and when not to use one of them. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a job that I went to a few weeks ago, and luckily I do my checks. If I hadn't have done my checks, then it could have been a very, very different outcome. So yeah, let's go and have a look at this now. A reason why you should always do your electrical checks. If we have a look at this boiler, I've just took front of this spur off, but the main live coming in there is wired directly into the boiler. So although it looks like it's got a fuse spur on it, and you can turn your spur off and take your fuse out, it's all still live. So just to explain what happened here, I turned the spur off, took the fuse out, and the boiler actually turned off. But what it did was it broke the neutral. which made it look like it isolated the boiler. So this is as bad as it gets really, because this now puts you in a false sense that you've isolated the boiler, and it shows you how important it is to do your electrical safety checks. And what somebody had done is they'd put all the lives, but I could see here, but they'd put all the lives into the same connection, and then the live there that wasn't connected in. So all the spur were doing were breaking the neutral. It wasn't breaking the live. So obviously if you put your hand in the boiler, started working on it, you'd have got electric shock. It's really important that you do your safe isolation checks on every job that you go to, because the one job where you don't, it could be like this job, and yeah, the outcome could be terrible. So as you can see from that could have been very, very serious if I hadn't have done me safety checks. Good old British Gas for making us, drilling it into us really, that we always need to do as electrical safety checks. So yeah, always do your electrical safety checks. Get yourself on a training course. Baxi do some good training courses on electrics. Viva Gas Academy as well. They do some electrical training as well. Thanks for watching. So as I say now, we've proved again. So we've proved, we've used, and we've proved. Very important.